Recently, I have been seeing more and more people talk about Mount Rushmores for their favorite athletes, games, movies, TV shows, and more. So I thought I should hop in on the fun and try to make a Skylanders Mount Rushmore. Basically, the Skylanders with the most impact, longevity, and things like that. Now, at the end of the day, while all my picks will be subjective, I will be trying my best to be using objective reasoning to get to the 4 on the Mount Rushmore. And remember, there are over 160 unique Skylanders to choose from, so narrowing it down to 4 was extremely difficult, but I did. So let's not take any time and try to figure out how we can make this Skylanders Mount Rushmore work. Also, shout out to Mr. Nostalgia, who I got this idea from his Disney star actor Mount Rushmore. His channel will be linked in the description below, go check him out. Okay, how this works. I put every single Skylander into 3 tiers when it comes to being on the Mount Rushmore. Those 3 tiers are no consideration or not enough presence, which you can assume what that means. Light consideration, which means that they aren't quite there, but they do deserve to be shouted out. And heavy consideration, where you can give an argument for each Skylander on that tier. And of course, the 4 that eventually make the Mount Rushmore are on that tier as well. Each tier has less and less Skylanders, so let's talk about the first tier in this video. Okay, the reason why this one is called no consideration or not enough presence is because there are a lot of good, honestly great Skylanders in this tier, but simply, like the tier suggests, does not have enough presence in the series to be on the Mount Rushmore. As you can guess, the Mount Rushmore leans very old school Skylanders, so a lot of later Skylanders and Gimmicklanders are found in this tier. This tier is the biggest of them all. 115 out of the 165 Skylanders are on this tier, so I obviously can't talk about all of them, but I will talk about some here. Pretty much every single supercharger is here because 1, all of the redesigned superchargers have OG Skylanders that have a better argument to be on the Mount Rushmore, and 2, the new superchargers, like I already said, unfortunately don't have the presence in the series to be on the mountain because they were such late additions. But I bet you can guess though which supercharger isn't down here. It is sad because I think the superchargers are a fun group of Skylanders that all could have been super iconic if they were brought in earlier in the game series. What's funny though is that if a Skylander has a supercharged redesign, that's actually a reason for them to be higher up on the tier list because they got another figure later on in the series. And almost the same thing can be said about the Senseis too. They were the latest additions to the franchise and didn't have the time to become as iconic as other Skylanders in the series. Not every Sensei's on this tier, but a majority of them are. Even some of my favorites like Chain Reaction, Starcast, Chopscotch, and Tri-Tip. Again, these are great Skylanders, amazing Skylanders, but I mean, there's just no shot that they could make it on the Skylanders Mount Rushmore when other Skylanders have done so much more for the series, and to be fair, they had a lot more time to do those things. The majority of Gimmicklanders, even from earlier games, are found in this tier since they were not really allowed to have any reposes or longevity in the series. 6 of the 8 Giants are in this tier, 12 out of the 16 Swappers are also in this tier, and 14 of the 18 Trapmasters find themselves in this tier as well. There's also a lot of cores down here, you know, the ones that never got any series variants. All but 2 Trap Team cores are in this bottom tier. They're pretty much in the same situations as later Gimmicklanders, but even worse since they are cores and are not part of a cool and memorable team. You could assume almost every Swap Force core is present as well, and you would be right as only 2 Swap Force cores are not in this tier. Giants has the least amount of core Skylanders with 8, as Swap Force has 16 and Trap Team has 18, but still 5 of the 8 Giants cores belong in this group. And now I might as well talk about the Spyro's Adventure characters I put down here. Some of your favorite Skylanders from SSA could be in this position, but remember, there can only be 4 Skylanders in the Mount Rushmore, and I just don't feel like these really have any shot at making it. With that being said, 14 of the 32 adventure characters I decided to place here. All of the Forgotten 8 who didn't get reposes in Giants are grouped here, which is kind of obvious. The other 6 Spyro's Adventure characters, like the tier says, just don't have the impact or presence to be considered. Like, I'm sorry, but Zook ain't getting any consideration to be on the Mount Rushmore just cause he had a Series 2 once. Oh, also the 4 real guest stars, Donkey Kong, Bowser, Crash, and Dr. Neo Cortex, I put them in this section too, but that's basically everything I have to say about this tier, so now it's time to move on to the next one. Now we are in the light consideration tier. Even though they are not in the bottom tier, most of these Skylanders realistically were not particularly close to making the top tier for the Mount Rushmore, but I do think a lot of these Skylanders have arguments to at least be minorly considered. Wildstorm, Robo, and Chompy Mage are in this tier because they are the 3 most expensive Skylanders, which I do own, by the way. I just want to say that I do own them. While them being known for being super expensive doesn't quite get them to that top tier, it does allow them to not be on the bottom. Kingpin also goes here because, you know, he's a starter pack character. Nothing really outside of that. But also all the Doom Raider senseis plus Graveclobber, Taekwon Crow, and Blastotron, I also decided to give them some consideration because they have appeared at least twice in the series, once as a boss fight and once as a Skylander 2, which is a pretty distinct aspect about them. 12 Spyro's Adventure characters are found here as well. 4 of those do have Series 3s, but just not enough prominence in the series to be in the final tier. And the other 8 only have Series 2s or Light Cores. And I do think some of these are relatively iconic to the series like Igniter and Lightning Rod, but again, not enough to be in that top tier. I was actually thinking about putting Prison Break into heavy consideration tier, not like he really had any chance to be on the Mount Rushmore, but I think he just had a lot of impact in the game series. Prison Break is a Skylander that inspired Light Cores, but those only lasted 2 games, and even though it's never been confirmed, I find it very hard to believe he also didn't have some sort of influence on trap designs as well, but that has never been confirmed, so I kept him where he's at. I would also like to say I was very close to putting Slam Bam in the bottom tier, but he appeared in both the Giants and Swap Force trailers, and that's not for no reason, so I decided to give him some consideration.
Yeah, and guess what else? Bigfoot's got big feet. Come on, the Giants are just a myth.
Bouncer, for the same reason, is in this tier and not in the bottom one, because he appeared in the first Giants trailer, and he has a line, so that's cool.
Yeah, that's ridiculous.
Also, I know some people will bring up the Crusher and Thumpback were in the Tall Tales Giants trailer, but that's not the OG trailer, so they're in the bottom tier, even though this trailer has more views for some reason. Shroom Boom is the only Giants core representative here. He got 3 figures throughout the series, so that's why he's above the rest of the other cores, but he isn't nearly as iconic as the other 2 Giants cores above him. Blast Zone, Magna Charge, and Free Ranger are the 3 swappers in this section. Blast Zone is a starter pack Skylander, and that basically puts him in this tier alone. Magna Charge was definitely one of the most popular, if not the most popular swapper back in 2013 when the game came out, along with Free Ranger, which is why I placed them here. The only 2 Swap Force cores I didn't put in no consideration are Roller Brawl and Smolder Dash. For Roller Brawl, it's because she got a Superchargers redesign, even though I vehemently disagree with it, and Smolder Dash was very popular despite the fact that she's a Swap Force core. Nightlight and Blackout are here, but not their other light and dark counterparts from their game, because I think they were the more popular option from each new element. I just felt like I had to put at least 1 new light and 1 new dark character in this tier since the new elements was just a big deal at the time. Food Fight also somehow finds himself here pretty much solely on the fact that he is a starter pack Skylander. You know, he did say in the trailer, so that was funny. He gets a nod here. Wildfire and Wallop were also very popular back in 2014, so they can be here, whatever. And that's it for the second tier. So now it's time to make some hard cuts in the final tier. Okay, honestly, everything before this was filler. These are all true Skylanders Hall of Famers. There are only 12 Skylanders in this tier, and we have to choose 4. And let's get one out of the way real quick. I mean, he was on the thumbnail. It's Gilgrunt. I feel like everyone should know this one was a lock. Gilgrunt is the only Skylander to get a Series 4, and he had a Superchargers redesign. Gilgrunt appeared in every single game that it was possible for him to appear in. He started in the SSA era and made it all the way to Superchargers without missing a game. The only real knock against him is that he was not a main character in Skylanders Academy. Heck, he never even appears in it. I don't get this honestly. If they loved Gilgrunt so much, why did he not even get a cameo in this series? But then again, Activision Blizzard Studios is the one who made it, but still, I think it's kind of egregious that he wasn't in the show at all. If Gil was in Academy, there is literally no holes you can poke in his resume. But still, even with that, I think he is a lock to be here. Congrats, Gil, you are the first one on. Now, even though they are in this tier, respectfully, Tree-Rex, Washbuckler, Snapshot, and Spitfire can be easily counted out. It's impressive that they made it this far with them being Gimmicklanders, and I do think them being starter pack figures is doing a lot of the heavy lifting, but they are all very popular, especially Spitfire. He was crazy popular, even though that he was one of the late additions in the series. It's actually kind of wild. I've seen a lot of people name themselves after Spitfire on YouTube. It's pretty crazy. But with those eliminations, we now have 7 Skylanders with 3 slots available. The first one of these I'm going to eliminate, and some of y'all might disagree with this, but I don't think Spyro is on that Mount Rushmore. Okay, listen, hear me out. At least in the games, it's always felt like Spyro was only there because Activision felt like they needed him to be there. Obviously, he was used as the marketing tactic in Spyro's Adventure, but after that, I think the only reason he got a Series 2 and 3 is because he's Spyro, so of course he has to be there. But I never got the feeling that Spyro was all that popular with the fans, or with the game devs even. My biggest piece of evidence for this is that he was not brought back for Superchargers to get a redesign. He is the only one out of the SSA Starter Pack characters to not get that Superchargers redesign. While he is one of the main characters of Skylanders Academy, I do not believe he quite makes the cut. With one more eliminated, 6 are left. And I think I will give away another addition that, to me, I thought was also a lock. The next Skylander I'm adding to the Mount Rushmore is Stealth Elf. I don't know if anyone talks about it, but Stealth Elf is on the front of the Spyro's Adventure game cover and not Spyro. That is crazy. While that probably just means Toys for Bob was trying to push her to be a prominent character, it's a good choice because she's an awesome Skylander. She got a series variant in Giants and Swap Force and then got a redesign in Superchargers. She was a main NPC in Imaginators and of course was a main character in Skylanders Academy. Her resume sounds very similar to Spyro, but she got that Superchargers redesign, and like I've already stated, I believe she was way more popular than Spyro during the series release, and personally, I believe she's a lock for the Mount Rushmore. Now we are at 2 available spots and 5 Skylanders left, those being Chop Chop, Eruptor, Trigger Happy, Pop Fizz, and Jet Vac. And even though I hate it, I think the next cut has to be Chop Chop. I know, Chop Chop is a fan favorite and he's a really good Skylander. However, he is the only character left that didn't get a Superchargers redesign. And honestly, if he had, I think he would have made it. And if he was in Academy too, he might make it. Bias aside, unfortunately for Chop Chop, he only has 3 figures. Now, in my opinion, he should have had 4 with a Superchargers redesign, but I think Vicarious Visions wanted one of their OG cores to be in Superchargers and Chop Chop was cut for that. Still, he should have been there. He is a massive fan favorite, but I don't think with his 3 figures alone and really nothing else, that popularity alone can carry him to the Mount Rushmore. So I'm sorry, Chop Chop, you just barely miss it. Alright, now it's time for another addition, which I think could be controversial, but for me, again, he was an almost lock. When I had this video idea, I already knew he was going to be on it, and that is Eruptor. His resume, pretty stacked. Series 2, Light Core, Series 3, redesign in Superchargers, NPC in Imaginators, and main character in Skylanders Academy. All that alone, while it is good, I don't know if he gets on with that. But what pushes him over the edge is the Macy's Thanksgiving Parade float. When it comes to being important in the franchise or iconic in the franchise, I mean, how can you not be on the Mount Rushmore for that? I mean, millions of people probably saw that float that have never even played Skylanders. I think that pretty much automatically puts him on the Mount Rushmore. But even with that, he also has a big resume to boot as well. Plus, Eruptor was constantly getting used in trailers and promotions. They definitely loved him over there at Activision. He gets on. Alright, we are almost done with a mountain. We have 3 out of the 4 selections, and that leaves only 1 spot available and 3 Skylanders vying for it. Those Skylanders being Trigger Happy, Pop Fizz, and Jet Vac. I think this cut was by far the hardest decision I had to make in the video. These Skylanders, when it comes to figures, are pretty much the same. They all have Series 3s and got redesigns and Superchargers. Although Jet Vac and Pop Fizz both got Light Cores and Giants. Jet Vac and Pop Fizz both got characters in every game they could have appeared in since they are both Giants original characters, not SSA OGs. But that means that Trigger Happy isn't SSA OG, and that also adds another reason why he should be on the mountain. Again, these last cuts are the hardest, but after a lot of consideration about it, it was really hard, but I did end up cutting Trigger Happy. Okay, hear me out. First off, Trigger Happy has less characters than Pop Fizz and Jet Vac since he lacks a Light Core. Also, Jet Vac and Pop Fizz were both in Skylanders Academy, and Trigger Happy barely appears in that show. I know it might seem weird that I'm deducting points for Trigger Happy not being in Academy while Gilgrunt gets a free pass, but Gilgrunt got a freaking Series 4. That means something to me, man. I'm sorry, Trigger Happy, you're an iconic Skylander, a first ballot Hall of Famer for sure, but he nearly misses Mount Rushmore. And then there were 2, Jet Vac and Pop Fizz. Quite possibly the most similar resumes for a Skylander ever. Broad and Giants, both getting Light Cores in the game too, then later getting a Series 2 in Swap Force and a Series 3 in Trap Team, and then both receiving redesigns and Superchargers. They were featured as NPCs and Imaginators and were main characters in Academy. Both of these dudes were very prominent in the Skylanders marketing too, being in many trailers and promos.
Did you see those minions? when Jetpack was like, "Brrr," with his vacuum fan thingy, and they were like, ah. You know who has crazy awesome powers? The Giants.
I guess you could say Jetpack got a mini and Pop didn't, but I'm not really holding anything against Pop Fizz for not getting a mini Skylander. Those things suck anyway. Honestly, this can really come down to personal judgment, but there is one thing, in my opinion, that splits the two apart. Pop Fizz was just more popular with fans than Jetpack was, at least from what I've seen. I just don't see that many Jetpack fans out there. Now, I know there are Jetpack fans out there. Probably some are watching the video right now, but Pop Fizz has a much larger fan base and probably overall is the better Skylander. I mean, when it comes down to these Skylanders with the resumes being so similar, it does come down to the nitty gritty. Also, he's more funny in Academy, so yeah. But yes, congratulations, Pop. You get the last spot on the Mount Rushmore. And that's it. This is the Mount Rushmore. In the end, this Mount Rushmore has 3 SSA Skylanders, but I feel like that's very warranted. Most of the iconic Skylanders are from this game, but we did fit one character from Giants on this too. I do feel bad for Gimmick Landers since they had pretty much no shot to make it, so I also made a Gimmick Landers Mount Rushmore, and it's Shreerock, Spitfire, Washbuckler, and Snapshot. And yes, they are all starter pack Skylanders, but what are you gonna do? It helps to be a starter pack Skylander. Also, as you can see, I did not want to do the whole Photoshop process again, so this is all y'all get for now. Okay, again, here is the real Mount Rushmore. We have Gilgrunt, Stealth Elf, Eruptor, and Pop Fizz. I'm not gonna lie, I think I did pretty good on this list when it comes to impact and longevity, but I'm sure some of y'all will disagree with some of these picks. So if you want to, go ahead in the comments and say who you would put on your Skylanders Mount Rushmore. Maybe even create and make Mount Rushmores for different aspects of the franchise, you know, go crazy. I will say, I had a very good time making this video. It's not like a super long project like most of my videos are. It was a little fun thought experiment, and I really enjoyed it. And I hope y'all enjoy the video too. If you did like the video, make sure to like and subscribe, and I'll see you in the next one. Have a great day.